What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Linda. I'm a registered pharmacist in Kenya. And in this channel, I talk about health and pharmacy practice. So if that sounds good to you, please feel free to subscribe. Thank you. So in our series of careers in pharmacy, today I have a special guest, and she's gonna take us through the process of being a registered pharmacist in Canada. So, Ore, please welcome. Kindly introduce
Thank you.
yourself and tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's so lovely to be here. My name is Ore. I'm a pharmacist based in Ontario, Canada. I have been here practicing for maybe 4 years now. Prior to that, I lived in the United Kingdom. So I'm also a pharmacist in the UK. So I have a license in Canada and also in the UK. And yeah, that's kind of a short, story about me. I'm also a fellow YouTuber. I like sharing stories about pharmacists and pharmacy and, our career journey. So that's a little bit.
Thank you so much. So you mentioned that you were licensed both in the UK and Canada. So I'm just curious, like, why did you decide to leave the UK for Canada? Whereas most people now come from Canada to UK. So why did you decide to go the other way?
Okay, that's a good question. So for me, I lived in the UK all my life. So I grew up there, went to school there, have family there. And I'm very passionate about moving out of your comfort zone and doing things that are different. I think sometimes when you're in the same place for a long time, you get comfortable. It's just easy to just be on autopilot. And I just wanted to try something new. I've always wanted to move to like North America, so either the United States or Canada. So I decided to just try something new. I didn't know that it would be something permanent, like I would be living here for a long time. But I'm here now. I like it, and yeah, it's just different for me.
Awesome. So, can you tell us about your journey? Maybe when you transitioned from the UK now to Canada, can you please talk about your journey, like how you became a registered pharmacist in Canada?
Yeah. So the first few things you have to do is go through the process of relicensing. So that requires you to prove your education, prove your language, prove I guess your ability to show that you've gone through the pharmacy degree. For me, I'm licensed in the UK, so I had to get my UK College of Pharmacy to send documentation to the college in Canada to show that I'm already licensed. Then you take some exams, a series of exams. In my case, I took 3 exams, 3 clinical exams, very expensive, those exams. And then when you finish that, you have to take a law exam. So that's just because in Canada, everywhere you go, so every province has a different law when it comes to pharmacy law. So I had to take a law exam before I can start working and practicing.
Wow, that seems rigorous. So,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine. So you said like every state has its different laws. So for example, if
Yeah.
I want to get licensed in Alberta, I'll take
Mhm.
exams for Alberta. And then if I want to move to another province, I'll take uh, different exams for a different state.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the general thing is, in terms of the clinical exam, it's the same, right? So if you're moving from outside of Canada, you all take the clinical exam, it's the same one. But if you're going from different provinces to different provinces, you will take a different law exam. We call it the jurisprudence, which is basically just a fancy word for law
Law.
exam. So even me now, I work in Ontario. If I wanted to go and work in Alberta, I'll have to take their law exam because the laws are different, in different provinces. So
Oh, wow. And then you mentioned the exams. So how many exams
mm.
is someone actually supposed to take? For example, if I'm coming from, let's say, Kenya, will I be
Mhm.
subjected to the same rigorous process as you, or will mine be tougher because I'm coming from outside?
Yeah.
Just explain that, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the only people who have it easy when it comes to coming into Canada are US graduates. So if you graduate from a pharmacy school in the US,
Yeah.
they bypass a couple of stages. Okay. So everyone else coming from any other place in the world, you will do what we call document evaluation. So that is, you send your university will have to send your degree, your transcript to the pharmacy examining body in Canada. They will review it. They'll check if, your degree matches up to the Canadian standard, I guess. It's almost like what you would do with, I think it's called WES. So where you look, they check your documents to make sure that your degree is really a degree. And then after that, you will do an evaluating exam. So this is a broad exam where they can ask you anything. It could be like you're talking things like biochemistry from like first year pharmacy school, like very simple chemistry, benzene rings, all those reactions, things like that. And then the next set of exams are the real clinical exams. So there's two parts. There's an MCQ, which is a multiple choice questions, and then an OSCE, which is an oral exam. So really, it's like 4 stages. And of those 4 stages, 3 of them are written exams.
Wow, that is interesting. So now, after someone has sat those exams, okay, let's even wait before someone sits the exam. So how much does this process cost?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I think it depends on many things. So I'll focus on mine. So at the time that I wrote my first exam, you're able to write that exam in the UK. So you could take the exam in the UK. They have centers in the UK where you can take the exam. So I didn't have to think about traveling to come to Canada to do the exam. So that reduced cost for me. I would say on average, if you're not having to travel, especially for that first exam, the second set of exams, you have to come into Canada to do them. So you need to factor in flight, hotel, visa cost, all those things. For me, I would say it cost me maybe around 4,500, 5,000 pounds. So between 4,000 to 5,000 pounds. If I'm just thinking about the document evaluation process, you have to get a notary public or a lawyer to sign your documents. Your university will have to send your transcript. All those things cost money, right? If you're now coming into Canada to do the first exam, you have to think about flight, hotel, feeding for the time that you're here, and then think about things like books. You have to buy the books to study and all those things. It's quite expensive. I would say maybe you should put aside, I would say 7,000 to 8,000 pounds. I'm going based on pounds because I was based in the UK. Just to be on the safe side. You may not use all of that money, but it's a good amount to just have to, pay for the exams, all the processing and things like that.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So I've actually heard that there are different ways in which someone can immigrate to Canada and work as a pharmacist. So one of them is the express entry, and then there's the one that I've had. So maybe you can clarify, like maybe you get an employer. So the employer will process all your documents and then come. I'm not so sure, but just tell us about the different ways in which someone can immigrate to Canada as a pharmacist.
Yeah. I will start by saying that I always recommend seeking legal immigration support. For me, I'm just speaking from my perspective and I don't have any legal training or anything like that. So for me, yes, there definitely is what we call the express entry. Now in Canada, there's so many different ways to come to the country, right? If maybe you're married to somebody who lives in Canada, you can do the spousal route. If you have like relatives, like family in Canada, there are many other routes as well.
Yeah.
For me specifically, I came through a route called International Experience Canada. Now, International Experience Canada is a visa that is made specifically for some countries. The UK is one of them, Hong Kong is one of them. I think Italy, some European countries, they have an agreement with Canada that allows, so for me, a British citizen under the age of 30, I've heard they've increased it to 35 now, to come into Canada and you can do any job you want for 2 years, anything you want, right? And then for me, what I did is within those 2 years, I passed my exam, worked in a pharmacy, and then I got Canadian experience. And then I was able to apply for the Canadian experience pathway, which is I've worked in Canada for 1 year. I'm licensed in Canada, so now I can settle in Canada. Okay. Other people come through the express, which is what you mentioned. and Express is for skilled workers. So if you're a pharmacist in another country, you can apply through the skilled worker program, show your experience, show your, degree, your licensing, and then you can come into Canada through that route. You don't need a job or anything for that. You just come in based on the fact that you are someone who has experience in an area that Canada is looking for, people to work, right?
Yeah.
In terms of what you said about the employer one, so I don't know many people who have got a job outside Canada. It's a bit hard to get a job as a pharmacist without being in the country. I think because you have to be in the country to get yourself onto the register in the first place.
Sure.
So I always recommend trying, even if you try like a visitor's visa, visit the country first. Visitor's visa, you can always change that to a work visa. Then you can get a job, do your, once you've done your exams. Some people even get like a part-time job as an assistant in a pharmacy whilst they're doing their exams, right? And then that helps them to build some experience or some Canadian experience, and then they can apply to settle. So
Okay, thank you. So just out of curiosity, which field do you practice in? Is it hospital pharmacy, community pharmacy? Because this will actually determine my next question. Yeah.
yeah, so I work as a hospital pharmacist, but sometimes I do still work in community sometimes, but very rarely now, mainly hospital.
Okay, so how is it different, like the hospital practice from the other practice? Because I know most people go and then they like work in the community pharmacy 90%. So how did you land yourself in the hospital practice area? And maybe if I'm interested to come to the hospital area, how do I go about so that I can bypass the community pharmacy practice?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say for me, I worked in hospital when I was in the UK. So I already had hospital experience. One of the challenges that many international pharmacy graduates have when they come to Canada is they do not have Canadian experience, right? So many people in hospital, they want you to have a Canadian residency, they want you to have some form of experience. But I think if you've worked in hospital in your country, you can always show the experience on your CV or your resume and show the different things you have done in your job back home, to be able to show them that you have some knowledge about hospital. I would say that it takes a lot of networking, very important, networking, being able to meet people and ask for experience. So even if it's not paid, maybe reaching out to people who are employers and asking them for some experience, unpaid volunteering, anything like that, that really helps you to get into the field. Many people go for community because it's easier to get in. But hospital, if you persist, if you're applying all the time, if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn or even just going to events, meeting people, reaching out for volunteer opportunities, you definitely can find a hospital job.
Okay, thank you. So since you mentioned about community pharmacy practice, so I have seen in Kenya and even the States, like there's lots of complaints about like long working hours. Like there's so much issues about like community pharmacy practice. So is it
Yeah.
the same in Canada or is it different? So can you just talk about that?
Yeah, it's 100% the same. 100% the same.
Yeah.
I think community pharmacists, they have like so many, such a big responsibility because you're not just managing the expectations of your employer or colleagues, you're managing the expectation of your patients as well. So for me personally, I find community pharmacy actually very, very stressful in Canada. It's not easy. There's a lot of like, responsibility, lots of not much support. So I think the general consensus is community is just an area that many people struggle, and I feel like I'm hearing more and more that it's everywhere. It's not just Canada or the UK, it's like everywhere.
Yeah, I think something needs to be done, to be honest, about the
Yeah,
community pharmacy practice because
yeah,
people from all the countries cannot just be complaining about the same thing.
that's
There
the same.
need
Yeah.
to be like changes need to be done in that area. So what is the average salary of a pharmacist in Canada, in any area, like just on average, how much does a pharmacist earn?
Okay, so I'm taking this based on an average, and as somebody, if you're coming and you're new and you're just starting, I would say that you should not take anything less than 85,000 Canadian dollars.
Mhm.
And this is again very general. The
Yeah.
price will go up or down depending on location, where you are, depending on the field you're working in, and depending on the employer. But I would say anything less than 85 is a complete, like it's unfair payment. But I would say starting around 85, and you should expect that to go up depending on, the field you're working. It should increase.
Is that per year or per month?
But yeah, sorry, 85,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering, like, oh my God, per month, that's like so much. I would run to
I
Canada
wish. Oh my
immediately. Somebody told me that I would run to Canada immediately. Yeah. So what are some of the challenges that people actually face when they want
God.
to immigrate to Canada as pharmacists? Do you know some of them, and how do they go about it to address them? Because I've seen scenarios in Kenya whereby people go there and then they get stranded. Maybe someone is trying to convert their visitor's visa to maybe
Mm.
the work permit, and then maybe they get stranded, they sleep on the streets, things like this. I've been hearing stories like this, yeah, like in Kenya. So how do we address such challenges? And if there are more challenges, then how do we address them?
Yeah, I definitely feel like Canada is a place where, and I'm just speaking from somebody who's come from another country.
Yeah.
um, I don't think there's as much support for people moving, like new pharmacists. I don't think there's enough support for
Yeah.
new pharmacists here in Canada because, we're doing a lot of learning, as somebody who's coming from another country. You're learning so many new things. You're learning the culture, you're learning the people, you're learning the system. For some of us, the drug names are different. The names of the drugs are different. The health system is different. So how they operate in terms of pharmacists, doctors, nursing, everything is different, right? And then aside from that, as an immigrant to a new country, you're also having issues with building a new community.
Yeah.
Maybe you're learning like the tax system, you're learning how to drive.
Mhm.
Maybe you come with your family and your spouse is looking for a job, you're trying to put your kids in school. There are
Yeah.
so many different things. So it can be challenging. But one thing I will say is I found the first 2 to 3 years very challenging.
Mhm.
And I'm in my fourth year now of being in Canada, and it's still a bit challenging for me.
Wow.
But I think it's definitely become better. One
Mhm.
of the general things I've heard is it usually takes you about 5 years to really feel like, okay, this is home. Yeah, like it takes 5 years to really feel settled. And,
Mhm.
I can be honest that in year four, like I said, I'm still learning new things, still having different challenges, but it's definitely much more easier than year two or year one. So it does get better. You just have to give yourself time to learn those things.
Okay, thank you. So in the process of preparation actually for those exams, like in Kenya, I'll tell you, like there are usually like material that is given out maybe for you to revise for the exam. So in this case, are you able to access any material? And since you are new there, like how did you go about it? Because yeah, you don't know anybody. So how did you figure it all out until you passed your exams?
Yeah. So, again, one thing I struggled with when I came was knowing where to find information and which information I needed. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to start sharing my journey on YouTube, because I felt like I was looking for people who had done the journey and how they were finding it. And I was struggling to find any information, right? So you are given some general guides, you're given some steps, you're given some what do you call those things? Like, when you're taking a course, they give you like a syllabus. Yeah, syllabus. So they give you some form of like outline of what you should study. I found it quite vague. It was very broad. It was very like, oh, go and study atoms and just
Oh my
just
God.
random
Yeah.
things that you just like, you don't, where do you start,
Yeah.
Luckily, there are some organizations that produce materials.
Mhm.
For example, Canadian Pharmacy Association, they have like a book that is almost a guide for these exams. You will find a lot of the materials for the exam in that book. But then there are other, I would say, doing more digging and research will help you to
Yeah.
find other good, helpful books and materials that you can use. Also, finding study groups, maybe connecting with other people who are also taking the exam, people who are going through the same process. It will also help you to know what to study and how to prepare.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of job opportunities, are there like job opportunities for pharmacists who want to immigrate to Canada? If
Mm.
yes, in what areas can they actually like focus on?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of job opportunities. I would say that you have to be willing, depending on your desires, be willing to, I would say, stay away from the city. Because I think in the city, there's so much people there. There's chances of you being paid less. There's so many, different things. But the further away you go from the city, the more need there is for pharmacists.
So,
Canada has a lot of rural areas. So there's many areas in Canada that are very rural, very quiet, not much medical support. And those areas are always requiring or always needing pharmacists, nurses, doctors. So I would always recommend going to some of those areas and looking for jobs because they always pay you more. There's always less like work pressure. It's not as busy, so you have more time to actually learn, enjoy your job, and things like that.
yeah,
So there's definitely many opportunities. I would say one of the things I always recommend is using LinkedIn. Make
yeah,
sure that LinkedIn is like number one. You can research if say you're moving, for example, you can figure out, okay, where am I moving to? Which area am I moving to? And maybe do some research. If you want to go to hospital, which hospitals are in that area?
yeah,
Find out the name of the hospital. Go to LinkedIn, find the hospital. Who
yeah,
are the pharmacists working at the hospital? Who is the manager at that place? Can I connect with them? Maybe ask them questions. If you want to go to community, again, reach out to the pharmacists in the area who
mhm,
own pharmacies. See if you can, connect and build a relationship because that will help
yeah.
in terms of securing a job. With Canada, it's not necessarily what you know, but who you know that
Mm,
helps you to get the job.
mm. Oh, thank you so much. And I always actually tell people it's your network is your net worth. So at the end of
Yes,
the day, whoever you talk to really can determine a lot about your life. So as
yes.
we come to the end of the video, any parting shot to anybody out there who wants to immigrate to Canada as a pharmacist, what advice can you tell them? Like if I were to wake you up and I tell you like I just want to go to Canada, what is the first thing that you will tell me?
The first thing I would say is just do it.
Mm,
I 100% think that it is a great, great thing to do
yeah,
in your career to work in another country if you can.
yeah.
It adds so much flavor to your resume. It adds so much experience and knowledge to your sleeve. So I definitely would say just do it. Pace yourself, give yourself grace,
Mhm.
and give yourself time because it's definitely a long journey. But I would highly recommend that everybody does it. And do your research, reach out to people, connect with people, ask questions, all the things you need to do, and you'll definitely make it.
Okay, thank you so much. So finally, for yourself, I know that some people might want to connect with you. They might want to subscribe to your channel. So it's your chance to put yourself out there.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, if you do want to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. I do have a video detailing every single thing about the PEBC, the Pharmacy Examining Board of Canada's examination process, the cost, the materials I use. All of those can be found in my video on my YouTube channel. It's Ore Supasta. That's ORESUPASTA. You can find me with the same name on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitter, and I share everything about my journey. I talk about the challenges, I talk about the negatives, the positives, and I'm always happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you so much. So what I'll do is I'll put all your links in the description box. So guys, if you want to check her channel out, please go check out if you want more information, because this video doesn't give so much information, like it's scanty, but I know in her channel, she's given so much information. So please go follow her, go subscribe to her channel. Yeah, and learn more. So if you want, you can still reach out to her through her socials. So thank you so much, Ore, for honoring this and just
Thank you.
accepting for me to interview you. It means a lot. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
And to everyone else, thank you for watching. Please make sure you like this video, share, and subscribe. If you have any question, please leave it in the comment section. Ore and I will be able to respond. So thank you so much, guys. I'll see you on my next video. Bye.